Right now I've been working on a series called Art from Cinema. I realized that during the mid-century, there was a tremendous gap in portraiture at that time. That generation was represented largely in film, photography, and illustrative work. And I got excited about what would it look like if artists were actually doing portraiture in the 50s. I was born in Palermo, Sicily in the mid-50s. When we came to America in the 60s, I couldn't speak English for the first couple of years, and I would just watch movies. Everything on television was reruns from the 50s, and I would watch these mid-century films trying to understand what America was, and to me, these mid-century films was America. I thought, this is what America's about. And they informed so much of what I thought style was. This work is really about my childhood in America and what I thought defined America in my childhood. And it was American cinema from the 50s. It starts out with sketches, a master sketch, and then what will become eventually the oil painting. These are the sketches that I start out when I'm trying to conceptualize the characters. And I think a lot like a writer. I love the imagery from 1930s juke joints and jazz clubs. And so I look at film footage, I look at archives, trying to get ideas. I was more interested in the people on the side rather than the people on the stage. So I conceptualized these three characters from the research that I did. These people, I start naming them. This is Polly, this is Frank, this is Mr. Big. I find that if I start naming them, then I have this kind of relationship with them. Rather than inanimate objects, I get to have sort of this little friendship with them for a while. And then I create a master sketch, which is done in acrylic and pastel. I put the composition together, you work out your values and your color. By the time the painting is done, it's probably going to look somewhat different than this, but this is a basic idea for me to follow. Maybe something in the expression has to change, or perhaps the color palette's not quite right. And so there's an evolution involved. I'm a byproduct of everything that I love. The cross between German Expressionism and Andy Warhol and Edward Hopper and all those people. It's not classical, but it's not abstract. I consider myself an expressionist, and expressionism is when you can clearly see what the subject is, but it's not rendered in a realistic way, and the artist is putting his or her attitude or idea in that subject. Although I love all forms of art and I love abstract art, the reason that I never went in that direction regarding my work was because I'm a storyteller. They tell writers, write what you know. And I think painters should paint what they love. So I decided to go back to the beginning. And for me, the beginning was carnival art. When I was a little boy, these carnivals, these ratty-tatty carnivals would come into town in Palermo. They would put up their tents outside of town. And they used to hoist up these huge canvases that had been painted of a woman on a high wire or something. And that was my first exposure. We weren't rich people. I wasn't exposed to museums. My exposure was poster art, religious art, and carnival art. If the Carnival series was my childhood in Italy, Art from Cinema was my childhood in America. My painting, I Follow Mother, I remembered going to downtown with my mother, and my mother was dressed in the typical kind of attire, you know, the black pumps and the full skirt. And it was my vantage point really was below the waist. And so that was where I got the idea of how can I tell a story without the whole story? When it was chosen for the 2011 Art-A-Whirl cover and all the ad art, I had some extraordinary experiences with people. I remember one guy who came in and he saw it and he just was ashen. And I went up to him and I said, "Are you all right?" He turned to me and he said, "When I was 3 years old, my mother died. And this is the only thing I remember. It's like you took it out of my head." Someone recently asked me, what have you learned after 5 years of doing this series called Art from Cinema and painting that generation? I began to realize that that generation, the World War II generation, my parents' generation, one by one, we're losing them. And I miss them very much. And without really fully understanding it, it's an homage to them. I think it's a tribute to them.
Minnesota Original is made possible by the State Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.